Publishing Persuasion. I am Angela Montoya, along with the glorious, amazing Queen, Melanie Schubert. Melanie, how are you today? Oh, I got a snort out of you today.
Because I got it was too much. I don't know how I'm like established with these titles. The glorious, amazing queen. I don't know how this happened, but it's the greatest day of my life.
It's true. You are a glorious, amazing queen, okay?
And yes, a rare snort slipped out for our listeners. You've been graced by the Australian Croatian snort.
We have been blessed. We have been blessed.
So we've just I'm literally crying with laughter. We've just had the best interview with Nova McBee, and wow, what a firecracker.
I love Nova. She is literally the coolest chick. And just seeing her bio, listening to her talk, just everything. She is amazing. So we can't wait for you guys to listen to this episode because Nova brings so much knowledge of just so many aspects of the industry. So make sure to listen all the way through because she has so many amazing things to say.
Totally. So I'm just going to read her bio because we're going to just get straight into it. Nova McBee is an avid traveler and culture nerd who has lived and worked in Europe, the Middle East, and Asia for half her life. She speaks multiple languages, including Mandarin, and lived in China for more than a decade. She thrives on complex plots, adventure, making cross-cultural connections, and coffee. I love her. She currently resides in the beautiful Pacific Northwest with her husband and 3 children. My literary works are represented by Amy Jameson of A&B Works. Calculated is currently in development to become a major motion picture. Woo! Emmy award-winning screenwriter Anne Peacock, especially known for The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, will adapt Calculated for screen. Calculated's film rights belong to One Door Studios. Sequels have also been optioned. Please sign up for my newsletter for updates. We'll put that link somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm the founder of the YA reader and writer blog, The Spinning Pen. I've been both a PitchWars mentor and mentee. Wow.
It shows. She is a mentor at heart. I cannot wait for you guys to hear this episode. Nova is the queen. She is the queen.
Yes. And that news is it's so exciting to watch someone go from start to here where she's got a big producer who loves her work. And it really sounds like she's just found her people who know her work and celebrate it and uplift it. So we can't wait for you. So let's just get her on because she's got the goods and we want you to hear them.
Nova!
Hi!
Oh my goodness. Are we recording already? You really jump the gas, don't you?
I do, because otherwise we end up missing gold.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, okay, I'm on this. Good to see you. I'm so excited to be with you too. I've been waiting all week. This is so awesome.
Yeah, we've been so excited and just excited following you and watching your journey and just everything. So to have you on and to get to talk to you, we're just so thankful. So thank you for coming on here.
Yay! No, I'm excited.
Yeah. And I've been reading your book, which is my new favorite book right now. So it's even bigger honor to have you on right now.
Oh, thank you.
Loving it. I tried to kind of I don't know, I'm getting kind of Alias vibes. I don't know if anyone remembers Alias, but there's so I kind of tried to dress how I imagine, if I was, Ghana in Alias.
One of her names. Yeah, no, I get comped Alias a lot. And the thing is I never even saw that until I was on book 2, or I had my agent, it was already writing book 2 and stuff like that. So somebody was like, oh my gosh, this is giving me Alias vibes. I'm like, what's that? Because I lived abroad for 20 years. I missed a lot of pop culture, guys. I'm like, I have seen Tibetan villages and lots of goats. And they're like, but not Alias. Yeah, so.
Yeah, a little different vibes going.
Yeah, no, I mean, I am so thankful for everything that I've seen in the world, but I did miss a lot of pop culture, but I have since watched Alias and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I'm like, yes, oh my gosh, even the first episode takes place in Asia. Did you remember that?
I don't remember that. I was just going to ask you, does it still hold up? Because my husband also grew up abroad and I'm like, Alias. And every now and then, and he's like, what? I never saw it. It's like, no. So should I rewatch it?
Because I watched it, in 2019 or 20?
Yeah.
I guess I got it after I was like still querying, but still writing book 2. No, so my husband and I had never watched it and we turned it on. The first 3 seasons were awesome. And then it went way downhill and we stopped watching.
Yeah. I remember that too.
Yeah, we're like, okay, no, thank you. We're like, it should have ended at season 3. It was totally epic. I loved it.
Yes.
That's the saddest thing, isn't it? Like when a show, you're like loving a show and then something weird, wonky happens and you're like, moving on.
Which, speaking of writing, you don't want to happen to your progressive books.
Definitely not. I think it only happens when people try to juice out more than that's there. If there's a big story to be told, it can span endless books, you know?
Yeah.
I think when it loses its kind of authenticity is when the production are like, well, it did really well, so maybe.
Yeah.
But I think
that's right.
when the goods are there, it's fire. So
no, exactly right. That's where Alias went wrong. Their arcs were there. They had total transformation. They had the fullness of the love story. The dad and mom, everything was resolved. And then they went to like, everything had been resolved. And then they just recreated and went backwards. Now we have problems with dad again. We have, you're like, no, you solved all that.
Yeah.
You can't go back and redo it all. And now it was just, no, you're right. You got to stop when you're ahead and start a new story. They just should have started like a brand new story.
Yeah. Well, and it's good writing advice and words to live by in your own, if you're thinking of doing series, which you are. So let's get right into you. Like, what made you start writing? Have you always been a writer?
So I have, and I've been talking about it with other people, but I didn't know I was a novelist. That's the thing. Was I creative? Yes. Was I a writer? Yes. Even my high school teachers were like, you're such a good writer. I had no idea what that meant. And they actually sent me to Washington, D.C. For a journalist conference because I was good at creative writing. That was like, I was over there being like, this is not what I want to do. Like, I am not a journalist, but I love people and I love exciting things. So I was like totally on mission while I was there. I was like actually skipping some of my classes for this whole journalism conference as a high schooler. And I was like sneaking around Washington, D.C. because I'm all about adventure, which, thrust me into 20 years of adventure abroad and also all these adventure action books. So, yeah. But to answer your question, yes, I wrote a lot. As an elementary school student, I had notebooks full of love songs. Guys, I was such a good songwriter. I look back, I'm like, what were you thinking? And just poems and like, the dramatic soul where you're dramatic. You have deep feeling. You're a deep feeler and you have to let it out somehow. And you feel about everything. And so I feel like a lot of writers are like that, where you just are like, I just need to tell somebody how I feel. And it's just deep and it's real. And then it starts to become a craft, And I've told this story before on another podcast interview, but I would be like the person in Italy or France on a train meeting the strangers and be like, we have to write a poem together to remember this moment. And it's just like, I have journals of poems that I've written with strangers. And it's that wild, free life that eventually I was like, wow, stories are really powerful. And started to really like, I love books. I love stories. But I didn't become even a serious reader for a long time or even a serious writer. I was always creative though. I did political science in my university. I did international relations, go figure, languages and all that stuff. But my professors were always like, yeah, like good marks for creativity, but your analytical skills are like low, but I didn't catch the drift until I was 28. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to write novels. And then I literally took 7 years to just practice craft with no, like, I didn't want to be published at that time. I was just like, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it well. and I'm going to learn. And I literally put myself through my own like PhD. And I say PhD because it was 7 years. I just practiced everything, absorbed everything, read everything, did everything everyone said. I went to master's programs. I looked at what they were doing. I was like, oh, I can do that. I can do that myself, you know? And I was like, this, went to every book. I just like, and then online, you don't even need to go to school for writing. It's all online. You can learn literally everything you want online. If you're reading, which I was like, oh, I want to practice that. I want to do that. Look at what they did. I was ripping stories apart and just like mapping it out. I didn't even know I was creating my own beat sheets. I didn't even know what a beat sheet was for years, but I had created my own. I'm like, oh, this is how they're building it. So I did that for 7 years. And then I wrote Calculated.
I love your spirit, Nova. I love,
yes.
like, you are an adventurer, and just like listening to you talk about everything, I'm just like, this woman is special. Like you have lived. And I really, really appreciate you saying that you know, your goal wasn't just to publish right away. It was to learn and to understand craft. And I think being a sponge and just taking your time learning and being open, you know, I think it really makes such a huge difference. And for you, it's like you spent 7 years in your writer university, you know, on your computer clacking away, and then it really paid off. It really paid off.
And not just 7 years in my writer university. I was in Asia, the Middle East, all kinds of European countries. I was everywhere. So when I was writing these stories, I was like, you know, in London, and I'm like, oh, look at the scenery that you have to work with. You know, it's like, then you're in the middle of nowhere, Central Asia, and you're like, I'm in the desert. And the nickname of the city is literally the death of the sea. How cool is that? You know, it's like, you are like, as a writer, adventurers, like they put everything in their backpack. Writers do anyway, no matter where they are. They're looking at they're absorbing everything. And so 7 years while I was still all over. And that also made it really cool. Like Calculated is set in Shanghai. I didn't actually live in Shanghai. I lived in a different city called Chengdu, way in the middle of China, on the, like, right next to Tibet, actually, the provinces where the pandas live. And you're like far away from everything. But I have really good friends in Shanghai. I went to Shanghai a lot. But the setting was so easy to write because I lived there for so long, you know.
It shows, because it's very immersive, and you really feel like, I haven't been to China, but I really felt like drawn into it's easy to picture your writing, and I find that to be kind of like the quality that draws me to writing the most, that I don't have to try really hard to imagine what the author is telling me. It's like, what's that quote? Easy reading is damn hard writing, you know? And I definitely easily immerse into your worlds. It's beautifully done. And
thank you.
Yeah. And I love that you said, you know, you kind of like self-taught, and like, it's so true. Like, a lot is just a Google away. If you have that passion and drive, there's not much restricting you from like teaching yourself, you know, and like finding out these things. And like, we talk about this a lot on the podcast, that the overnight success is such a myth, you know, and here it is right on a platter, like been grinding your ass off, and it shows, you know, so congratulations.
And I will say there was progression, because there was definitely like, I was busy, you know, I wasn't just doing nothing abroad. So I was like, first it was like 2 afternoons. I'm like, I think I want to be, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be a writer. And so it was like 2 afternoons. Then it like became 3, and then like every day, you know, eventually. So there was a progression. And, you know, I love your podcast name of the Publishing Persuasion. So cool. But it's also like, I knew I had to learn about the publishing industry too. I didn't want to go in blind. I was like, no, I want to do this well. I want to research what do I need? You know, what does an agent do? Do I want one? And what's a query? How do you write one? So I did all of that too. What's publishing? What's traditional? What's self-publishing? Because people are asking you that when you finally start telling people you want to be a writer, they're like, well, are you going to self-publish, or are you going to be traditional? And then you're like, well, what's that mean? You know, what's traditional? You know, so way back when, that feels like when I was a little kindergartner, you know, now. But I started to research all of that and I studied queries like a dog. Like I read hundreds of queries, and I was like working on my query, and I knew eventually I was like, no, I want an agent who knows what she's doing. I want to be in the traditionally published world. I want to go this route. And yeah, and sticking to your vision, even though it can get rough at certain points.
Like, it's so good, I think, for our listeners to hear, because I did the same. Like when I first started writing, just like diving into understanding all the aspects that is publishing, it's so important because, you know, all these different parts are going in motion all at once. And so you have to know the basics. And a lot of that is just doing stuff like this, like listening to podcasts, going on YouTube. And it does really seem like agents notice these things. You know, they understand when somebody gets the query right, when they're hitting these points. And I think that makes it easier for them as well. So good job.
Yeah. And that's another thing. And if there are new writers listening, it does pay off, because when I first sent my very first query, I got a full request in 2 hours. 2 hours later, you know, and I was like, I don't think, you know, from what I've read, this is very uncommon. You know, it's like, I heard it's going to take months, but I just got a request 2 hours later. You know, it's like, it pays off. And I got a lot of requests, and, you know, like I did get a lot of rejections, but I got a lot of requests. And so, and right away too. So my query caught people, my pages caught people. And so I actually, and I think you guys might have read in my bio, but my calculators got chosen for PitchWars. So then you start exchanging queries with everybody in PitchWars, and you're a PitchWars mentee too, right? I was a mentor. And so then you're doubly trained in queries. And then I started giving query critiques, which I found out I personally enjoy. I'm like, I think I'm good at this. I want to critique your query, you know, I want to up your game, and I want to give you a chance. And so like, that's like something I'm like, oh, you're going to query soon? Send it to me before, you know.
You hear that now, listeners. Send it to me.
Oh, no.
I'm kidding. Do not do that.
No, I love it. And I used to do like biannual giveaways for at least 5 people each, because I know that people did that for me too, you know, especially in PitchWars. People were like, do you need me to look at your query? And that's the important part of critique partners, and like having a group where they can help sharpen each other's stuff. And so important.
So it is. And I feel like those early people who reach out to you and they see your writer spirit, it's like such a thing of hope to hold on to in your early state. Like I remember an author reaching out to me before I got into PitchWars, and I had her books on my shelf, and I could not believe she had offered to read my pages. And it just, at the time she did that, shout out Katya, love you. At the time she did that, I was so down about my writing, and I was just like, oh, maybe I don't have what it takes. Maybe this isn't going to go anywhere. And the fact that she was like, no, I'm going to invest some time in you because I see your spirit. And I think I just love those moments when people reach out, those little extra bits that you don't need to do, but you choose to do to give back because you know how much it means to you.
Yeah. And I've had a lot of people like pour into me, and what it does is you want to pour into others as well. You want to give as much as you've been given and more. You know, you get excited, and you get excited for other people's breakthroughs. And my PitchWars group was super encouraging. We were like cheering for each other for years, you know. And then I would say all of us have like publishing deals now. So it's so cool to see, just but really encouraging, cheering people on, and just helping as you go. And we're still doing it, you know, helping each other.
I love it. No, community, the writing community is everything. I mean, the support you receive and can give back, it's like, there's just really no other community that I've been a part of that is just so amazing. And one win is everybody's win, you know, which I love so much, because there's so many books. Like, You can never have too many books. So like, we're not in competition with each other. Like, we are here to boost each other and support each other. And I love that. And that's what I really enjoyed about Pitch Wars, was finding that community. And, you know, it's just a special thing. So hopefully we'll have more mentorships and more places like that for other writers.
Well, and they have already started. You know, I have other writers groups that have started and other groups that I'm part of. And like Pitch Wars was, you know, it's over, but it really was a phenomenon that launched so many other people to do their pitch wars or their own pitch groups. I mean, it literally was the first of its kind, and it blew up. And I look at Brenda and I'm just like, lady, what a visionary she gave. And actually, speaking of something like you, Melanie, I just joined Twitter. You know, I didn't even have an Instagram account, and I'm like, oh gosh, I have to be on social media. Like, oh no. And so I joined Twitter. I had like 20 followers or something, you know, it's like the brand new. And when I followed Brenda Drake, she followed me back. And I was, you know, it was like, why? There's no reason to follow me. There's like no reason to follow me. I'm a nobody. And when she followed me back, it was that one tiny piece of hope that you could be in the crowd, you know, and that even though you're nobody, somebody believes in you, you know, and that was so huge. It was so little. And I've thanked her like 100 times for that. Like, thank you for following me that one time when I had 20 followers, you know, and not that it matters, but, you know, what I'm saying is not that it matters how many followers you have.
No, I know what you mean. It means a lot when someone you respect sees that spark of recognition in you, and a follow is a lot from someone like that, because they won't just follow a random who's gonna drain them. You know?
Oh no, and actually, so many of the other Pitch Wars mentors started following the mentees too, and that was like another boost. And you know, even like big ones like Karen McManus. She was one of the mentors that I submitted to, and she encouraged me so much because the other mentor chose me or whatever, but she's like, I'm going to follow you. I know what you're going to do. And I'm like,
I love that.
Oh my word, you know? And so she was such a huge encouragement too. And
oh, well, so tell us a bit about your books.
Okay. I haven't read it. I'm dying to know. I need to know what these books are about.
Well, yeah, about like math. No, I was like,
okay.
Nerd. No,
I don't know how, but you made math very, very sexy and cool.
Yes, that is so true. That is so true. It is not about math. It is not about math. It's about just like it's about a math prodigy wrongly taken because of what her math can do. She has a really unique math gift. So a lot of bad guys want her, and they find out what she can do, and she ends up in Shanghai, and she's got to find a way out of that. And, you know, there's like gangsters and spies and kung fu and romance and crisis and bad guys and evil and good and redemption and light and power and all kinds of cool things in it. It's pitched as Count of Monte Cristo meets Mission Impossible. And that's mostly before it kind of sets the stage for the whole series, actually, because it becomes way more Mission Impossible type stuff in book 2 and book 3, following an international setting, kind of like Mission Impossible is like they're all over the world and they have these crazy things they have to solve all over. And then there's more romance in book 2 and book 3, but there is romance in book 1, but it's more it's very intense. Book 1 is very intense, I would say. It lays a footwork for who she is and who she becomes and the key players in her life. And then it really launches into what I didn't even know could be such an amazing series. Do you know what I mean? Like, I actually wrote Calculated as a standalone. Wow. And it's so amazing because when the producers read Calculated, they were like, no, this is not a standalone. They're like, it's not. And I left the ending open. You haven't gotten to the end yet, Melanie, so I won't spoil anything. But it was actually a British agent who I actually really wanted to be my agent. She wrote me and she requested the full. And she's like, I love this book, but you need to do 2 things. she's like, you need to cut 20 to 30,000 words, because this was back when it was like 125 or something. Oh, it was long. And then she's like, and you need to leave it open-ended. And she actually, it was really another step along the way where an agent who didn't have to write me, she basically wrote me like an edit letter. And she's like, she's like, I get 10,000 queries a year. I do not write everyone back like this, but I'm writing you back because I see that your book it stands above the crowd. I will never forget that. Aww. She did not sign me, but that alone, like, I think I fed on that for like months, it was like years maybe. And she gave me this edit letter and she's like, you could strengthen it in these ways. And as a writer, it's so cool because we can take those things or not, right? And we also have to feel out what resonates with us, what resonates with the story. And one of the things that really resonated was trimming it. Yeah. Like she said, I was like, I know I can tighten this up. And then the other thing was, you need to leave it open-ended. And I had not. I was like, no way. I was like, why would I leave it open-ended? No, because this book was so hard to write. I'm not a math genius, although a lot of people emailed me after calculated was published. Are you actually like, are you a genius? I was like, thank you, but no, I'm just no, or else. It was hilarious. And anyway, but I left it open-ended, which then gave me this like tiny thought of an idea, for book 2. Yeah. But I was like convinced I would never write it because it was so hard to write, because all the research, all the meticulous puzzle, complex plotting that has to be seamless for something like that to work, because you can't write a genius and have a simple plot. You can't, it does not work. You have to have something complex and genius to unfold. And anyway, I was like, I just never want to do that again. It's so complicated. The research was genius, but I was like, I just can't do that again. It was so hard. The dual timeline, oh my word, like brain was like totally hurting. But then the producers were like, no, this is not one and done. They're like, we see Joe Rivers as a character that people are going to want to follow. Yeah. And we encourage you to write if you have an idea, to write it. And then eventually, as we kind of worked forward, they were like, if you decide to write these books, we will option up to 4 films. And
I want to backtrack a little for our listeners so you can share that news properly on the podcast.
Okay.
So, because as you say, the producers, for those who don't know, you recently did share some huge news. Let's just backtrack a little. Tell us about that. I see our time is like ticking down, but tell us.
Our time was like so little. Yeah, so I did sign with producers who optioned Calculated for Film. Then they purchased the rights, and then they optioned the other 3 sequels. That was incredible. Woo! It was like, it's mind-blowing, right? Because they actually believed in stories. They're like, if you write these, we will option them, or we will buy the rights to them. And I was like, what in the world? Well, how do you say no to that?
You don't.
You just don't.
Yeah.
But because I had that small idea, I wrote Simulated, and I was like, oh my word, I love Simulated even more. Wow. And then it like launched into Activated, which Activated now, and this is what I was saying, is like, you want to improve as a writer, but you also want each book to top the other. Mm-hmm. And that's like the greatest, I think it's also the greatest fear while you're writing. Like, can I top what I just did? And so, but then for me, I mean, I'm saying the victories, the victory is like, people read Calculated and they're like, oh my gosh, whoa. And then I was like trembling in my boots, for Simulated. And they're like, I didn't think anything could top it, but Simulated did. And then now they're saying that for Activated, which is great, except for I have book 4, the finale. So then I'm like, I go back to that stage where I'm like, I don't think I can do it again. And it's like trembling for 9 months as you write a book. And somehow it works out, because like, if you are committed to just pressing in and going that extra mile, and if you are determined to like, not just, I actually, for Activated, and if I go off a rabbit trail, you guys can stop me. But I had to ask for 5 extensions for Activated because I knew it wasn't ready. And I was like, I am not going to put out something that I know isn't my best. And I'm going to wait and I'm going to do it. And it, like, you know, writers, we have to think. It's like most of what we do is thinking. And then we figure out how to beautifully put what's inside our mind. And so it took like lots of headaches to get lots of brain power for Activated, because it was the most complex of them all and the deepest of them all. So now I'm writing Liberated. But the big news I think that you wanted me to announce was after they purchased the rights, we, you know, Hollywood is really fun to learn about, actually, because there's a lot of different stages. And so it's like you have your producers and you have your, you know, finances, and then you get a screenwriter. And so we had shopped, calculated and simulated kind of around Hollywood to see who's going to read it, and a lot of incredible people read it. It's just like amazing. I mean, gosh, I've told the stories privately. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell them all publicly, but a lot of amazing people read it and loved it. And but it's also about finding the right match. And who has time, you know, because Hollywood is also like, it's kind of the same as querying or submitting to a publisher, right? Where they're like, it's like, we're full right now. We don't have time, you know, like we just took something on just like that. Some of the people were like, hey, we really are interested. We really like it, but we're like booked for 3 years. Can you wait? We're like, not really, you know? So there's like that kind of thing, or matching the vision. That was huge. Because if people want to change your story, you're like, oh, yikes, no, thank you. And so we waited until we were committed to like, we want to wait for this. These are the things that matter. This is really long to tell you that we signed with the epic, globally known book to film screenwriter Anne Peacock, who is best known for The Chronicles of Narnia. She was incredible. She put me to tears when we had our meeting. She finished Calculated and she was like, I want this. And she's like, let me tell you why. And she hit everything that mattered to us. Everything. And she was just like pouring into, she's like, this is a story the world needs to hear. And she's like, and quoting my characters. And she's like, I get sent books all the time that I don't take on because I don't take on a project unless I believe in it. And she was just like so passionate for the story. And she was like, this has got everything that a story needs, you know, and just really hitting all those, not only the action beats that really mattered to us, but the depth, you know, and loving the characters, loving the setting. And it was just so fun to talk to her. I was like, we found the one. We totally found the one. She is the one. She's going to handle the story. She gets it. She totally gets it. And so then we finally got to announce that.
That is amazing. Like you are you are the dream, but you worked your ass off. And so like you deserved it. You earned it. You have done it. And it obviously shows to have these people reading your book and believing in it so much that they're like, we're doing it, we're making it. So congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Gosh, I just had to breathe it in because I'm like, that is the coolest news in the world.
Thank you. So amazing. It is. And you know what? But the journey doesn't stop there. You know, Hollywood is so funny because they're like, it's going to be so big. Oh, and by the way, it might never happen. You're like, what? Oh my gosh, you know, sure. Because there's some realists in the world too. My producers are not. They're like 100%. We're never giving up. You know, they're amazing men. They really are. And we have an amazing production manager as well.
Hello. Welcome back.
That is hilarious.
I just love you. I love that. Like, I didn't even realize the timer was ticking down and it just cut out. Like, I knew it was ticking down, but I didn't realize we were at the end because I was just engaging what you were saying.
Well, that's so hilarious because I've run out of meeting time before, but it never actually cut off on me. So I don't know if like other people have different programs, you know what I mean? And they're cooler than me. I don't know anything about Zoom. I just push the link, you know. So yeah, so thank you guys. Yeah, no, I saw the less than 1 minute. And again, I was like, yeah, because there's just so much to say, you know, about the process. I mean, it's not all easy and all victory and all kinds of, you know, there's like, you know, you have to navigate stuff and yeah, but thank you for celebrating with me and celebrating, because you have to celebrate the victories, because there have been, you know, along this journey, it's not all easy. I've been rejected many times and I've learned to love that and move forward. And there's some wins and some days where you don't get the answer that you want. And so when you do get a victory, you get to celebrate it and you get to keep hoping for the next step to be just as bright or better. And yeah, like some of your guys' questions earlier, like the hardest part of writing and all of those things, it's like, it is such a journey of victory and conquering your fear of like, can this be better? You know, are people going to like it? And so
yeah.
No,
and I think that's why we celebrate so hard with you and for you, is because we understand how hard the journey to get here is, all the lows. And so when those highs come, like we celebrate hard because we all know how low those lows feel. So it's like, so seeing that you've got this amazing person behind you backing your books and wanting to turn them into film is the coolest thing. And we will forever be cheering for you and just be fans, just watching this wild journey you're on. It's amazing.
Yeah. And oh gosh, I feel like it's just really the beginning, you know, because there's so many more things to say to come. And you guys asked me about a dream cast earlier, and I'm like, I don't even know, you know, like I've been looking around, but it's so hard. You know, when you guys get to that point, maybe you're going to get to that point too, right? And you're like, who can really embody these characters? You don't know. And people are sending you all kinds of ideas, but their ideas aren't exactly like the ones in your head. And so I don't know about cast right now. There was one boy I wanted for Kai.
Really?
But he's aged. He's aged out of the role. He's aged out of the role. He's too old now, but he used to be in his youth. He was like perfect. Totally perfect.
Like, do you have a younger brother?
Yeah. Do you have a younger brother who also knows Kung Fu and is funny and good looking? You know, 7 forms of martial arts. Like, he's not only an actor, he like knows 7 forms of martial arts, and he's super genuine online. So like there was, you know, you kind of go, you're like, oh yeah, that guy has the face. And then you go check out like what he's like on the Instagram and you're like, sorry, no thank you. You know, because sometimes that can turn you off too, you know, you're like, wow, you could totally fit. And then it's like the personality just doesn't match and you're like, nah. So
do you have any say in that as you go forward?
So they do ask for my ideas all the time, which my agent, you guys also asked about my agent, I cold queried. I knew nobody in the industry. I did, you know, the cold querying thing for 2 years and 3 months. And yeah, and that was fun. Wrote another book while being rejected.
Has to happen. Has to happen. It's the only way to stay sane, really. Like
it is. And you know, I tell people all the time, I'm like, you just can't give up. It's the ones that don't give up really make it. You know, I've seen people walk away after 12 queries. And I'm like, 12 queries? That's like 1 grain of rice.
Right. I've seen that too. And it always surprises me. I'm just like, it's also like makes you realize how little they know about the industry to think that that was a sign of like actual rejection. I'm like, mate, try 100.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk. And even it's, oh man, I saw this quote today and it was just like, you know, publishing is half luck, but half just a bunch of people who wouldn't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's just the truth right there. Like you've got to be stubborn about it, and you've got to be that what you said at the very start about like kind of the start of your writing. I think so many writers are going to identify with that, just like needing to write, having a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings and a lot of thoughts about everything and being swamped by it, and finding that when you write it down, you kind of like sort, it's like therapy, let's be honest. Like, you write it down and you sort through things. And sometimes even if you're not writing about that specific thing, it can still really just be this outlet for all that jumble.
Yeah. Speaking of getting all your like emotions out, my first drafts, I purposely go over dramatic.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I want to get the biggest emotions that I can, and then I want to craft them in. And it works, because then you find out what they're really feeling and what you're actually feeling about the story. And so I try to go as big and as exaggerated and dramatic as this heart can go. But those drafts help me do that. When you try to dive into the true emotion of the story, it can be so big and exaggerated, but then you kind of figure out what you have to do to make those emotional and character arcs, those transformational arcs that they need. So that's kind of my first draft secret.
I love that advice. I've never thought of that, but like, it's kind of that just free draft and like let it all, kind of not worrying about if it sounds cheesy on page, if it sounds overstated.
Totally. Just going over dramatic, as big as possible, biggest things possible, just getting it all out there, one big emotional, wild, crazy adventure mess. Because my first are a mess, and I do not write in order at all, because I see the whole story. I don't know how it's all going to go together, so I'll just write pieces as I go along until it all fits together like a puzzle.
Really?
Yeah, see, that's cool. I like hearing how other people draft and do, write their books, because everybody's brain works so differently. I love writing the big emotions though, and just like vomiting it out onto the page.
I know. I can't wait to read your book.
Oh, thanks.
I can sense the big emotions coming from your book. Yeah. I can sense the drama, Yes,
totally. I love it. I like, bring me all the angst, bring me all the like dramatic flair. I'm here for it. And so I'm going to start using that in my first drafts. I'm just going to go all out. So
go all out. Yeah, do it. Raise the stakes, because it raises the stakes actually. If emotions are bigger, then the stakes automatically get raised. And I found that it was really helpful for me. So I was like, yeah, that's what I need to do on my first draft.
I love it.
You can fix it. We have to fix it. Half of this as writers, but it's all in the revision. That's where all the true genius comes later, crafting it into exactly what it needs to be. So, yeah.
Yeah. Nova, you are honestly such a special, magical human. Like, you belong on this show. I've just been listening to you this whole time, just thinking you are so cool. So thank you for like sprinkling your coolness into Publishing Persuasion. You are amazing. Yes, thank you. Give it.
I am sprinkling my magical persuasion. What did you call it? I can't remember.
Of the Publishing Persuasion, sprinkle us with your coolness.
You guys are special too, and I was actually really excited to come on here because you two are so special, and you have so much just fun energy and positivity and just good vibes that you give to everyone. So I'm having fun because you guys are having fun. That's the real truth of it, right?
That's the best right there. That's it.
It's such a treat having you on, seriously. And I said to Angela before we started, I was like, oh, I'm really looking forward to us, because it's going to be just us girls, and that's exactly how it's been. Just like coffee with the girls, hearing all the things, celebrating our wins. And what Angela said before, it's so true. Like what you both said, we have to celebrate those wins, because it is a grueling journey. And like, when you say it now, it's like, oh yeah, your journey, like 7 years, those 7 years weren't easy, that you were grinding in silence and teaching yourself and like breaking yourself and remolding yourself. Like, it sounds easy when you're giving a bio, but it's not. Like, when you're living that, it's hard. And so we're going to cheer super hard for all the wins that we can. And You're always welcome back on our show. Do you have any parting words that you want to give to our listeners? What would you say to young Nova?
What would I say to young Nova? Oh my word. Let me see. Yeah. Well, okay. So not just the 7 years, but then the querying years. That's like adding on 9, 10, it's like a lot of years. But yeah, don't give up. I mean, it sounds so simple, but it's like, don't give up. Share your work, play with your work, have fun with your work, believe in yourself, it's find your tribe, all of that stuff. I know I've shared this before, but in the midst of all of my rejections, I stumbled upon an interview. It was like at my dad's house, my parents' house. And this woman actor, I don't even know who she was, can't remember her name, nothing about her. And she said, the entertainment industry is a lot of rejection, right? And she said, but if you can't handle rejection, you will never be able to handle success. And she said, it is part of the game, and you have to learn how to receive rejection so that you can handle success. And I was talking with Marissa Meyer the other day, and we were talking about that exact same thing. And because if you can't handle that rejection, wait till people are going to start talking about your books. And it's like in all kinds of critical forms. It could be good, could be bad, could be just, like people interpreting different things, but you're going to be there. The journey changes, but there's still so many challenges and new things that you have to learn. The learning curve still is there. And so learning that lesson of being rejected and taking it in, that was so good actually. And it kind of actually did something that maybe you don't expect. It like made me more confident to go further, harder, faster, and it's like, it goes back to that spirit. It's like what you were saying, you got to be stubborn. It's like, you can't tell me no.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I belong. Yeah, I belong here. I know this about myself. I know that I'm supposed to do this.
Yeah.
And believing in that word,
Just took us to Writer Church right now. So thank you.
100%. That was such fire. Like, you need the humbleness to know you have to grow, and the stubbornness and the self-belief to go for it with everything you've got. And that balance is so hard to find. And I think we're probably just all in a constant dance of trying to find it, because like as soon as you have that confidence, you got to learn something new. And you're so right, at every stage it's going to be hard. There's going to be books that don't sell, there's going to be bad reviews, and I think that the early days are like preparing you some way, in some feeble way, for that, but yeah.
And you really hit on the other side. You have to be humble enough to know when you need to grow. And that's so important too, to be like, actually, yeah, you're right. That I need to grow in that area. I need to fix that. I need to improve that. And so it's such a balance, and it's so fun doing it with people who believe in each other and root for each other every step of the way. And yeah, like you said, it's been good.
Yeah. So we're just so happy for you, Nova, and proud of you. And like I just keep saying, like, it's just so fun to watch this journey. And so we're happy to have you back on every time something exciting happens, because so many more exciting things are coming your way. And so
I would love to.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for coming on and just like bringing your light. And so again, just thank you. That's all I can keep saying, is because I feel like you just took us on this journey of like, just remembering that it's not this easy thing that just comes. You've got to grind and it takes time and to learn to sit in that time and be okay.
Yeah. And
taking that, those years and putting it not as it's taking so long. It's no, I'm in writer university right now. And so that just hit me real hard. That time, the grinding, the querying, it's all the rejections, it's all just adding to your armor. And so I really think so many people right now are in the querying trenches, or in submission, or just in publishing in general, just need that like reminder that quiet time is also okay, and it's all working towards something. So congratulations to you and everything you have done.
Thank you. And same to you. Thank you for having me on here. Thank you for starting the podcast. It's been fun to watch your journey.
Thanks. Where can our listeners find you?
I am on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram. I am sometimes on Twitter, like 4 times a year. Not very regularly. I do have a Facebook page. I don't update it all the time, but I am getting better. And I am attempting to do reels. This is my new thing. You're a pro at reels. My sister was like, you need to get with the times, like do some reels. So I was like, okay, I will try it. So I've tried 4 or 5.
Yes, good. Get on those reels. Get on the reel train.
Find me in my reels. Obviously my website, if you want to find me there. I'm on Goodreads. I'm on Amazon, Yep, you can find me if you Google me.
Google. We're going to use good old Google.
Good old Google.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time today to chat with us. And yes, you're a pub persuasion girl. Like I'm watching a lot of RuPaul's Drag Race and they're like, you're a Ru girl forever. And I realized I want that for the podcast. And I think we're going to cheer for every one of our guests forever, so you're always a pub persuasion girl.
I love that. That should be your key phrase at the end. Should be, you're a pub persuasion girl forever.
Or life.
Or person, whoever's on.
The guest. Yes. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Cheering and watching, and hopefully have you on again to cheer about more things in the future. So
absolutely. Or just talk more publishing stuff and share tips or whatever we can do to boost others.
Totally. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night, and see you on the gram.
Yep. All right. Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.